Hi, everyone, and welcome to our presentation tonight, our training tonight. We'll be doing sudden infant death syndromes, SIDS, and then we'll be doing brain development. I do want to apologize for not being here with you in person. On the first session that was scheduled, I was having some health issues, ended up having some surgery, but everything is going good, doing fine. This session, my younger brother is having some health issues, and I'm going to be taking him to doctor for a procedure. So, again, I apologize for not being there, but my email is at the bottom of the page, and you feel free to email me at any time you would like. I do want to tell you a little bit about myself. I recently retired after 40 years of experience in the field of education. I started as a classroom teacher, family and consumer science, or at that time we were called home economics. And I taught the full gamut of what you could teach. I did foods and nutrition, housing, interior design, home and family living, clothing construction, and one of my favorites was child development. I continued a couple of years into the child development. I went and got my master's with a major in secondary education and a minor in early childhood education. Continued to, my interest continued. As a teacher in a small school, I was the only teacher who taught the child development classes. And at the beginning, I noticed that every teen parent, and we did have, we have them, was enrolled in my class. And the problem that I saw was the high absentee rate of my teen parents because they didn't have care for their child to come to school. Also, when talking to some of the teen parents, had some concerns about the quality of care that the children were receiving while they were at school. So I got with a couple of coworkers and a counselor, and we did research, lots of research, and then put in a proposal to our school board to open a child development center for the purpose of caring for the teen parents' children. We wrote the grant, and then it took us 3 attempts to get it passed to this 3 attempts to get to the school board to ask for permission to build and get started. I am happy to say that the Child Development Center is starting its 16th year, and it is a 4-star Texas Rising Star Center. So I'm pleased about that. You'll have to excuse me that I'll be taking sips of water as we go along. So that's a little bit about me. If I were with you, I would ask you some questions, but let's move on. What is SIDS? Sudden Infant Death Syndrome, SIDS, is the sudden and unexplained death of a baby younger than 1 year old. A diagnosis of SIDS is made if the baby's death remains unexplained even after a death scene investigation, an autopsy, and a review of the clinical history. Now, we have SUID, sudden unexpected infant death, is a term used to describe the sudden and unexpected death of a baby less than 1 year old. The difference is that this includes accidental death, such as suffocation, entrapment, and strangulation. It is also included in the sudden natural deaths, such as those caused from infections, cardiac or metabolic disorders, neurological conditions, and homicides. So basically, SIDS falls into this category, and not all deaths in the sudden unexpected death syndrome are related to SIDS. Some statistics are about 3,500 babies in the U.S. die suddenly and unexpectedly each year. About 1 in 1,000 babies die from SIDS. There were 3,600 deaths reported due to SUD, 1,400 deaths due to SIDS. This also included 900 deaths due to accidental suffocation and strangulation. This data, with the most accurate I could find, was from 2018. There's nothing for 19 or 20 out yet. But when I looked at the charts and graphs, it pretty much remained a steady incidence. Okay, so let's look a little bit about SIDS risk by the age. We do know that SIDS is the leading cause of deaths of infants between 1 month and 1 year. 90% of SIDS deaths occur before 6 months of age. So that first 6 months is kind of the most critical. 72% of SIDS deaths occur between 1 to 4 months. The most common age for SIDS death is 2 to 4 months. That's kind of some statistics that we need to be aware of. I also, on this CDC website, looked at the SIDS rate by state. Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alaska, and Louisiana had the highest SIDS rates. California, Massachusetts, New York, Vermont, and Colorado had the lowest SIDS rate. And Texas is in the next to lowest category with a rate of 93.1. So I'm happy we're not in that highest rate. Going to look a little bit at SIDS and SUDS based on ethnicity. Under American Indian and Alaskan Native, sudden infant death syndrome, 89.5, unknown cause, 74.3, and accidental suffocation and strangulation, 48.4. Non-Hispanic, Black, SIDS was 72.7, unknown 65.7, and accidental 48.5. Non-Hispanic, White at 36.7, 26.4 for unknown, 21.8 for accidental. Hispanic, sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, was 20.7, 22.3 was unknown, and accidental is 11.1. And then an Asian Pacific Islander, 13.8 for SIDS, 13% for unknown, and 7.7 accidental. So it's varied. You can look at this and kind of get an idea of what ethnicity might be. Well, you can get look at the ethnicity to see what groups have the highest. Breakdown of sudden unexpected infant deaths by cause. We have sudden infant death, SIDS, 38.7, unknown, 37%, and accidental, 24.3%. Now, we really don't know what causes SIDS. And so that's one of the frustrating things for parties involved, families involved, is because we don't know the cause. some of the theories or some of the research that they know about is that it could be associated with the following problems: inability of the baby to arouse from sleep, inability of a baby to detect low levels of oxygen, or the buildup of carbon monoxide in the blood. Now, when babies sleep face down, okay, they may be rebreathing exhaled carbon monoxide. So when they're on their tummies, they breathe out, it's going to come right back in. When normally the rising carbon dioxide levels activate nerve cells in the brainstem, which stimulate the brain's respiratory and arousal centers. Then the baby would wake up, turn his head, breathe faster to get more oxygen. SIDS babies, however, fail to rouse. So the baby doesn't wake up. The baby is probably has a high intake of carbon monoxide, and because they don't wake up, they won't get more oxygen and move the carbon dioxide out. Yeah, as you can see from the previous slide, they are looking closely at the SIDS that could be related to the stem development. There's all kinds of new research. So I don't really know, I can't really tell you anything more than that. They also think it's may be due to the hormone serotonin. But again, SIDS is an unexplained death, and the research hasn't drawn a conclusion. Now let's look at some SIDS facts. Victims appear to be in good health prior to death. Happy, healthy, wonderful baby. SIDS seems to cause no suffering. Death occurs rapidly and usually during periods of sleep. And sometimes you'll hear SIDS referred to as crib death because most of the time this occurs while the baby is in the crib. Now, Texas, and I think probably nationwide, but Texas, we have the Back to Sleep campaign. And it has been successful because we know that by putting babies down to sleep on their backs, we've had a 40% reduction in SIDS in Texas. So it's a very successful campaign. We do know that vomiting and choking do not cause SIDS. We know that SIDS is not contagious. You're not going to get it from another baby. And you cannot predict which babies will die from SIDS. But all you can do is reduce the SIDS risk. Now, there's still a lot of people that will, they don't want to do the back to sleep. I recently talked to a lady, and she was keeping her grandson, and we were talking about putting the baby back to sleep. She says, no, that's not going to work because he could vomit and choke himself, and there was no way I was going to change her mind. But as a child care professional, it's our responsibility to continue to promote healthy activities and healthy environments for the children in our care. So just keep giving them the information. You also have the attitude that, well, I did this with my kids and it worked just fine. You see this a lot with my teen parents. Grandma did it, so they're going to do it. Then the other thing too that I'm finding is on the Back to Sleep campaign is that babies come home from the hospital sleeping on their backs, But then by the time they get to us, they're sleeping on their sides or they're sleeping on their tummies. And then you have to retrain that baby to sleep on their back so that they can get some rest. And it seems like no matter how much you've tried to educate them prior to arriving with the baby, they will go ahead and change the baby's sleep position before they start bringing them to the center. Who is at risk? It's mysterious. Its definition can't be exactly be determined, but we talked about some of the risk factors. We've already done that. We know about 2,300 babies in the United States die of SIDS each year. Between 1 and 4 months is the most common, and I don't know if the other slide indicated that it happens more with boys than with girls. Also, it occurs more in the fall, winter, and early spring months. Now, during pregnancy, some things that may be associated or may be happening with SIDS is a baby born less than 5 pounds, make a baby more prone, a premature baby, a baby that's born less than 37 weeks old, maternal smoking during pregnancy. It's been quite a few years ago, and it was during, when you could start having CAT scans, and they had a pregnant mom, kind of the side view, and it showed her, and you could see the baby moving around nice and healthy. And then it showed mom taking a puff on a cigarette, and almost immediately you saw the movement of the baby decrease. And as time lapsed along, at about 30 minutes, the baby basically wasn't moving. The smoking, was taking the oxygen away from the baby. That was one of the most visual things available, or that I've seen, to talk about the importance of not smoking. If there's twins or triplets, more likely to have SIDS. If the age of the mom, maternal age, is less than 20 years, this used to be 18 and it's moved up to 20. So I was a little bit surprised about that one. Another thing they found is that if you have less than 18 months before birth, so you've had one child, and then you're going to start you have your second child before the 18 months. There's a little bit of correlation there. Babies born to mothers who had little, late, or no prenatal care, these babies are more prone to possibly having SIDS. Also, if they're premature, and then the low birth weight. This one again is going back to the smoke exposure. They can be the babies can be premature and too small. Also, the smoking negatively affects the brain development of the developing fetus. So we'll be getting more into the brain development later, but smoking does affect their brain development, and it is rapid. Brain development is occurring in utero. Cigarette smoke contains nicotine, which is an addictive drug. It has toxic gases, poisonous chemicals, as well as tiny particles that more than double a baby's chance of dying from SIDS. Exposure to passive smoking, from smoking by mothers, fathers, and others in the household, doubles the baby's risk of SIDS. So, this is the attitude that, well, mom isn't smoking, but I'm smoking, so it's ain't going to hurt the baby. That's false. And I think most people are aware of this, but again, and since basically you're going to be working with kids after, after birth and stuff, but just kind of let people know about this. On sleep position, if a baby is on his stomach or side, they're 2 to 3 times higher risk for SIDS. Okay? The side position is not as safe as the back, as the baby can accidentally roll to the stomach. Again, we have parents that insist that the baby has to sleep on their stomach or the side. And again, you as the child care provider, as the early childhood professional, have to do some education. And then if it comes to, and there's been occasion as a director that basically the parent was insistent and had to step in and say, unless I have a note from the doctor, the baby will be sleeping on the back with nothing else in the crib. And always, well, where's the bumper guards? There is a common question is, do I need to flip the baby back over if she or he rolls onto the stomach? You don't have to, okay? Remember that babies comfortably and consistently start rolling between 4 and 6 months. And that is actually when the risk of SIDS starts to decrease. However, be aware that babies do occasionally still die after 6 months of SIDS. Other factors that may place a baby at higher risk: overheating while sleeping. Okay, too soft a sleeping surface with fluffy blankets or toys, or have a sibling who died from SIDS. Be sure and ask your parents to provide a variety of clothing options, not just because of the dirty diapers, but that they can add, or you can add or take clothing off as the temperature indicates. You don't want a baby to overheat while they're sleeping. Also, when you touch a baby's hands, typically, and feet, typically they are going to be colder than the body of the baby because of circulation, and that's the furthest that the blood will move. And it sometimes, that's a work in progress. So don't touch a baby's hand and say the baby is freezing. Of course, if the baby's hands are extremely cold, you need to see about changing the position, changing the clothing of the baby. But keep that in mind. They have come up with the triple risk model for SIDS, and it's being proposed to explain how SIDS occurs. The model holds that SIDS occurs when 3 conditions exist simultaneously. 1, the infant has an underlying, and that the brainstem abnormality, and we talked about that at the beginning, that makes them unable to respond to low oxygen or to high carbon dioxide blood levels. The second one, the infant is exposed to a triggering event such as sleeping face down on its tummy, and then events occur during a vulnerable stage in infant's development during the first 6 months of life. So you may be seeing the triple risk model coming out again. This was Boston University, and I have not heard it being used anywhere else, but it was being proposed. So steps to reducing the risk of SIDS. Always put healthy babies on their backs to sleep. Okay, always put them on their backs. Put an infant to sleep on a firm mattress with a tight sheet. Okay, not a loose sheet, a very tight sheet. And licensing will come and look at that closely. Remove all fluffy and loose bedding from the sleep area. Again, sometimes parents get a little upset because they want this special toy in there. Make sure the infant's face stays uncovered during sleep. We had one, when mom brought the baby, she always put a blanket over the crib so to help the baby sleep. And she just was insistent and could not understand why we didn't do that to help the baby sleep. And we explained it's against our standards, it's against our rules. And then again, don't let infants overheat during sleep. No smoking in the air that infants will breathe. Just no smoking, period. No alcohol or illegal drug use during pregnancy. And this is pretty rampant. There's you can look at research, or you can look at the facts of what's happening with children that are exposed to alcohol, or they're born addicted to a illegal drug. It's a hard go for these kids, hard life for these kids. And then typically there is some brain damage. You have fetal alcohol syndrome babies, and then you have the crack babies, and they're going through withdrawal just after birth, and it's hard for them. Consider offering a pacifier at nap time to babies who are more than 1 month old. The reason for the pacifier is as they're sucking on the pacifier, they're sucking in oxygen. And then be sure you visit your baby's healthcare provider for regular checkups, and that the baby will receive their important shots to prevent disease. And we all have, all directors, all administrators have a way to track the checkups. Also, if there's a concern that you think that the parents might need to ask about, be sure and talk to the parent about it. These resources for this one were from CDC, parents.com, Mayo Clinic, and I did not put Boston University. Sorry about that. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at patcarter1019@gmail.com. You probably noticed that the SIDS presentation is a little bit shorter, so if you want to at this time, take just a really short break to stretch, get some coffee, get some water. I will be back in just about 2 minutes. Thank you. All right. I hope everybody got a little stretch, and so let's go ahead on brain facts and what neuroscience tells us. So with the new technology, the brain development is constantly being updated with the new information, and you could go for hours discussing brain development. So I'm going to try to hit some of the highlights, some of the new things, and how you as a caregiver, early childhood caregiver professional, can use them directly with your children. So here we go. Did you know that there are 700 new neural connections are made every second? Okay. And a connection is the wiring in your brain. We're going to talk about that as we move along. Did you know that relationships affect brain development? Okay. In fact, the responsive care that you provide for children helps them to learn problem solving, communication, self-control, and develop trust. And these responsive care, these connections that you make, are the most important thing for the development of the brain of a child. And when you develop the brain, then you develop the rest of their bodies, cognitive, language, social, motor. Did you know that repetition strengthens the wiring in the brain? So do it over and over and over. It's okay. Um, that repetition wires the brain, and that repetition is what um, a baby uses to retain information. So when they ask you to read the story for the fourth time, it's okay. Just smile and say, "Ooh, look at that brain working." Did you know that 85% of the brain is wired by age 3? 95% of the brain is wired by age 5. So think about the importance of what you do, because by age 3, the majority of that brain is already wired. Then by the time they hit kindergarten, you've already done a major important job of giving the child the care, responsive care, for success in their future. Did you know a little stress is good? A little good stress goes a long way. Those challenges teach children to learn new skills, solve problems, and learn about not getting our way. And this past year, and starting in 2021, we seem to be having a whole lot of stress. And please remember that your stress is felt by the children in your care, by your children, by your coworkers, and try to find ways to decrease your stress. Have a plan within your classroom or within your center to help a co-worker or somebody needs to take a break, to have that available for them, because you don't want this stress to move on to the children. I do want to congratulate each and every one of you, because you are brain builders. You've got the job, you're doing a great job, and we're going to learn a little bit more. Objectives of the session are: first, we're going to be looking at the new research concerning early brain development. And again, this is changing. It's a field that's not just brain development in young children, it's brain development in all ages, including older people. Then we're going to look at how the brain affects attachments, temper tantrums, cooperation, cognitive development, motor skills, and language development. All right, everyone is born with 10,000 neurons. This does not make any difference of your sex, your ethnicity, your environmental conditions that you were born in. Everybody has them. Okay, even a child born with some concern has these 10,000 neurons available. And it's very important for us to provide opportunities for these neurons to grow. If you look at this diagram, on the left side, you see a cell body, and inside the little purple would be the neuron. Okay, well, the whole thing is the neuron. And the finger-like projections that are coming out are called dendrites. So you have thousands of dendrites attached to each neuron. Okay. Now, if you look to the right of that picture, you see the axon, And then as it moves down, you see the myelin sheath. Okay? That is a layer of fat, basically, that helps protect the brain. So this is where, and the sheath is produced with reproduced with repetition. So we talked about repetition wiring the brain. This myelin sheath grows with repetition and helps protect the neuron and the dendrite. Now, as you move down, you see axon terminals, okay? And on the little receptor on the other side, you see a synapses. So basically, a synapses is when one of the ends, the terminal of the dendrite, gets close to the other dendrite, and a synapses occurs. And basically, a synapses is actually electrical current that is happening, that happens. So the information is passed from dendrite to dendrite, from neuron to neuron, and new information just increases the number of connections and the number of dendrites and that you see in a baby's brain or in your brain. So at birth, this is a wide open process because the neurons are there and they're like little sponges. And you know, as children, they're little sponges and they always like to collect information. I do want to show you this. This is brain development, brain connections of the newborn. Okay. The first 4 weeks of first month, the connections are beginning, but a lot of the first month is basically survival, learning how to eat, they're listening, but just more of the basic skills. Then at 1 month, you see it starting to grow. Then you look at 9 months, okay? And at 2 years, it's just almost a solid mass of dendrites, neurons connected to each other. And it continues through 3, 4, and 5. Then if you look at the adult, we still have that activity going on, but not near the amount that was going on when we were 2 years old. Human baby's brain has the greatest density of brain cell connectors, or the synapses, by age 3 to connect those 10,000 neurons. These connectors open windows of opportunity, and these windows of opportunity are optimum times for development. At this chart, and basically we're going to look at the wiring opportunity for different things to occur. So when we look at emotional intelligence, we're going to be looking in general from 0 to 48 months. Trust is the best wiring opportunity for a child to learn to trust is 0 to 14 months. Impulse control is 16 months to 48 months. And if you think about it, you'll know what is happening during starting at that 16, 18 months, the changes in a child, and how the impulse control really is relevant at that point. I cannot stress enough trust, and then if you look at the second one is attachment, and it's 0 to 12 months. Those 0 to 12, 14 months are critical in the development of a child's brain. Okay? They attach to somebody. It makes them safe, secure. They need it. Also, you're developing trust. A child needs to know that when they cry, somebody's going to come and take care of them. And I cannot stress enough the importance of this wiring opportunity. Now, when I say wiring opportunity, I also want to point out that just because they may not get it during that time period, maybe there was an illness, or maybe there was a real stressful situation in the family, doesn't mean they can't form it. Okay, so it's not that they're not going to be able to form these connections. It's just these are the opportune times. Then we're going to look at independence. Again, impulse control and independence, that's basically your toddler time period. That's when they, that's when your temper tantrum starts. This is when the snatching toys is beginning. This is when biting occurs, that impulse control is happening. And so we want to help them learn to control, but we also want them to be independent. Starting at about 24 to 48 months is when you start seeing some cooperation in social development. The cooperation is critical. Basically, it's going to start at 24 months. If you look at thinking skills, you have cause and effect, and 0 to 16 months is the optimum time for a child to learn cause and effect. And this isn't just the physical cause and effect. This is what happens when I do this, a physical activity. This is also important in their emotional and social development. That, again, when you go back with the trust, I cry, somebody comes and takes care of me. Then problem solving is 16 to 48 months. And, you want to be sure you're providing opportunities for problem solving. Motor development in general is 0 to 24 months. I am noticing that language development was cut off on this slide, but we will be discussing language development and the wiring opportunity also. So, I can't talk enough about the importance of attachment and trust. At birth, babies are hardwired to develop strong emotional connections or attachments. Okay? It's there at birth. They are looking for it. Okay? These emotional connections are formed by wordless communication between an infant and a caregiver. Okay? And when you say primary caregiver, typically the parent, but it's also important for all children to have an attachment and have trust in their caregiver at your school, or if it's a family home. This emotional connection is important. The future mental, physical, social, and emotional health is determined by these connections. In fact, the strength of this relationship is the main predictor of how well a child will do in both school and life. And I apologize. No matter how many times I look over these, I continue to find grammatical errors or spelling errors. Okay, you form attachments basically from the beginning of your time with the child. As you watch and listen to your baby's cries and sounds, you are responding. Now, you're responding with your tone of voice, your gestures, and your emotions. And this is where I really want you to make sure that you have a plan to relieve or to calm yourself down as you are working with young children. Okay, they do you do this, your tone of voice, your gestures, your emotions, while you are actually attending to the needs. You do this when you're feeding the baby, when you're cuddling the baby, when you're providing, a fantastic environment where it's warm and it's soothing. Used to everything was color bound. We had lots of colors, and now we've gone to the natural, which basically is easier attachment for a baby. Important functions of attachment. You're learning basic trust. Okay, these babies, well, actually, the baby is learning basic trust. They're learning that if something is wrong, I can make these noises, and somebody's going to take care of me. Okay. This will also give them opportunities to feel safe when they're going to explore the environment. Okay. One of the first things a baby starts doing is with the head up, and then they're going to start moving their motor development so that they can get places to see what's going on. And this attachment that they feel safe helps them to go explore. This attachment that begins early at birth and beyond is going to assist in the development of the ability of a child to control their behavior. Okay, secure attachments are going to help them in the control of their behavior. A secure attachment creates a foundation for the development of identity. When a child feels that they have somebody that they can trust someone, that they have somebody who's there for them, it'll start assist them to figure out who they are, okay? What they are. It also establishes a moral framework, a good attachment, moral framework, and this attachment generates a core set of beliefs. Okay, so let's move on. Why independence is good. You want to promote the I can do it attitude in toddlers. You want to promote self-confidence. Okay, you want a child to say, yes, I can do it. As they get out and they start exploring, I can do it. Though you want a child to become self-confident, you want children to go out and explore their environments. And if they have that secure attachment, they will go out and explore because they know it's safe and they know that somebody is there as they explore their environment, see what's going on, see what happens when I do this. Independence helps them to learn about themselves. Okay? Babies are born with personalities, and each one is going to approach things in a different way. I have two grandsons, one 11 and one 4, and their personalities are totally different as far as how they approach life and just things in general. But we want both of them to be independent, to be safe as they explore. Independence helps a child to learn about others. Okay, they're going to go find out. Well, you can see. I'm sorry, I had to stop and get a drink of water. 2 hours of talking has a tendency to dry your mouth. You can see, I see a big difference in my grandsons, but I have noticed that the youngest one is definitely more independent. He'll go after, he wants to go see things, but at the same time, he'll stop. We have some neighbors that have some children, and the other day when he was here, he heard them outside playing, and he said, "I want to go meet them and play with them." And so we started walking over there, and all of a sudden it was just like, no, no, wrapped his leg around my arm, and he didn't want to go, which is fine. We talked about, okay, that's no big deal. You can try another day if you would like. But he wanted to learn about friends, about classmates, okay? Independence. Allowing a child to be independent strengthens your connection with your child by showing your trust in them. So it's basically as they're learning independence, they want to go do something, okay? But they want you back there in that corner saying like, okay, yeah, I got your back. I can always come back to you if something goes wrong, okay? That they know that you're always going to be back there, that attachment and that trust. So we're going to move on to 12 to 18 months. And why do toddlers have temper tantrums? Okay. This is where I would ask lots of questions, but I can't do that right now. But think in your mind, what causes a temper tantrum? Just give it a little thought before we move on to the next slide. Okay. Typically, a temper tantrum is going to occur when a child wants something and doesn't get it. Okay. When a child is tired, when an unusual situation is occurring, and it's causing some stress. Okay. So also remember that you have pre-language children, nonverbal kids that don't have the ability to talk, to tell you what they need. So they're just going to go get it or throw a fit, have a meltdown because you won't let them have the candy in the grocery store. Okay. So basically there's different reasons that can cause a temper tantrum. And adjusting to the needs of the children or the child will hopefully help decrease or maybe not have as many temper tantrums. Now, remember, there's tremendous number of connections being formed in this early childhood period, and so the wiring is going. Okay, it's extremely important that you teach toddlers that there are boundaries, and the boundaries are for their safety, even though they don't understand it. Okay, so you do have rules that are forming in their brain that I can go do this and I can go do this, but I can't do this. Okay. Now, personalities will definitely have factor in temper tantrums because you have some children that are basically going to stop and nope, not going to do that. And then you have the other toddler who is going to go straight through and jump off something that basically is not safe. Okay? So dealing with temper tantrums, you also have to deal with the personalities of children. So when you set your rules, you have to be consistent. If you are inconsistent in setting your rules, then the brain wiring doesn't know what to do. So this time it's okay for me to crawl under the table. Okay? She didn't say anything. We're all crawling under this table and laughing and smiling because it's a new adventure. And then the next time you do it, no, you get out from under that table. It's not safe for you to be under that table. Okay? Their wiring goes, okay, I've learned it this way, but now you're telling me this is the right way. Okay? Consistency in anything and everything is important so that the connection is formed. Just one thing kind of throw in here is that language. When you're talking about language and wiring, I've often wondered, I'm jumping ahead, but I've often wondered, as we get older, we lose some of our connections, but are they still there, kind of buried and deep? When my dad was born first generation in the United States from Sweden, and he did not speak English until he started school, and of course that was age 6 or 7. Before he started school, it was totally Swedish, and I always wondered if I took him back to Sweden and put him in that intense environment of only Swedish being spoken, if those little connections would pop back up and he would be able to communicate. Just a little thought. Okay, dealing with a temper tantrum. First, you have to be calm. Okay? You have to take a breath and be calm. Okay? So take that breath. As they get, you might have to, of course, the breath may be short or long depending on what's getting ready to happen. If it's a dangerous situation, you're going to have to take care of it immediately. But try to always take a breath and calm yourself. So if you will take a nice long breath with me. Okay, that's going to help calm your brain. Now, depending on the situation, there's different things you could do to deal with the temper tantrum. Depending on the age, maybe you can just distract. The younger they are, the easier it is to distract the children, so that they're, I want this, and I want to play with the fire truck, and I want to play with the fire truck now. And you can easily walk over there and find another fire truck or find the ambulance. And look, the ambulance can follow the fire truck and distract the children from having the temper tantrum. Again, that's going to be dependent on the age, the situation, and the personalities. Another thing you can do is ignore it. Okay, if it's a small group, ignoring it a lot of times is going to be the best way to handle it. But again, you may not be able to ignore the situation, especially when there's safety involved. Okay? You may have to resort to removing the child. This could be for safety of the other children, safety of the child, just to calm the environment of the classroom so that it can continue in a safe and pleasant way. Now, part of this is kind of coming from conscious discipline, and some of you may practice conscious discipline. Your center is engaged, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. I've been to trainings on conscious discipline. I use conscious discipline with myself. I also use it with my grandkids, especially the 4-year-old when he's here. So, I'm going to say it's kind of, we can talk it out. So the first thing, again, let's go back. And this can start with some of your toddlers, and it moves on to your older toddlers and threes, is to take 3 deep breaths. So I'm going to ask you to participate in this, even though I can't see you. I know you're going to do it for me. So take 3 deep breaths. Breathe through your nose and out your mouth. I use breathing especially when I'm driving, and I was traveling to Dallas for a presentation, and I hit downtown Dallas at 5 minutes to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was doing a lot of breathing so I could get to the hotel and get registered. Now, describe how you think a child may feel. Okay? You might tell them your face looks angry. Okay, I know you wanted to play with that toy. Okay? This may be kind of some distraction, but let's play with the ambulance. Be sure that you listen to the children, and this is kind of going to your older twos that have a little bit of, and it again moves on with your threes and fours. Listen to what they have to say. Okay, you can't understand how they feel if you don't know, if you're not listening to them. Okay, again, you may be saying your face looks like you're angry, your face looks like you're sad. Okay, now when I say listen to children, that's one of the hardest things to do, because you have this child on your right side just getting ready to lose it or probably in a meltdown. Okay, and then you have another child coming and, grabbing on your shirt sleeve saying, Miss Pat, Miss Pat, Miss Pat. Okay, so basically keep your hand on the child that is in having the meltdown or the child that is angry, and just tell them, okay, you stand right here with me, you keep breathing while I talk to Johnny over here. And then you tell Johnny, I'm helping Briggs right now. Okay, I will get back to you just as soon as I can. Okay, but I want to help Briggs right now. So can you wait? Now, at this point, that child may stand there and wait for you to finish, or they might go ahead and go on and play with something else. But keeping a hand on the child that is having the temper tantrum or having the anger issue is important. Sometimes you need to keep a child and also put a hand on the child that also needs you. That physical touch is going to be important for them to know, and this goes back to that attachment, that you're there and you will take care of the problem. Then, look at ideas of how to solve the issue. Okay. We could do this, we could do that, and then assist in the activation of the plan. Now, conscious discipline has a whole lot, has more steps, and basically, that's something that I hope you practice. You can always go to the website to get more information. We just don't have that much time in this session, but hopefully that's going to give you a few ideas on dealing with the temper tantrum. Cooperation is another skill that we want our children to learn. Cooperation is the ability to balance one's own needs with someone else's. Okay? The ability to balance your needs with the needs of somebody else. Children learn cooperation early, so you basically can start They can start learning cooperation when they're 9 months old, but they typically start practicing it when they reach age 3. Examples of cooperation. A 3-month-old wakes up and begins to cry for milk. Okay? In your infant classrooms, I know you do this each and every time. I'll be with you in a minute. I know you're hungry. Okay? Hopefully then the baby will quiet a little bit, suck on his fingers, learning that he may sometimes need to wait. He's learning cooperation. His needs will be met. Now, some babies have longer patience extension time, and some babies don't. I also want to talk a little bit about personalities right now. You typically sometimes will have the baby who is loud, who consistently cries. So when you're in there, because this baby's physical activity, you're more prone to take care of that child than the baby who's pretty pleasant. Yeah, no big deal. I'll wait. There are studies in orphanages that have lots of children that those babies, those criers, the robust babies, typically develop better, faster, and correctly than the passive babies. The one basically showed that the babies that were this is orphanages where there's lots of babies, that the passive babies basically hadn't even developed physically when to the point where they should be. One of my friends adopted a baby and from China. When she went to go get the baby, she and her sister went to receive the baby, bring the baby home. The baby was almost chronologically 9 months old. Physically, the baby was more like a 5-month-old. The baby hadn't grown. And going into this, she knew that there would be issues. Now, she's not a baby anymore. She's 18 years old, but she is autistic and has some issues. But I always want to think, or in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, was that the situation that this baby was in while in the orphanage, waiting to be adopted? Another form of cooperation is 2 30-month-olds reach for the same bright red shovel. Okay? One is grabbing and the other is grabbing. And of course, the tears are following. Okay? This kind of temperature, it's mine. You remember that at 18 months, 2 years old, everything belongs to the child. It's always theirs. It's mine, it's mine, it's mine. One of the child care workers steps in and gently separates the children, hands one red shovel to one and a plastic bulldozer to the other. And he shows them how one bulldozer can move a pile of dirt, which the other can shovel into the bucket. Okay? These children are learning how to resolve conflict, problem solving. They're learning the emotional skill of being able to cope with disappointment. And then they're starting to build relationships through cooperative play. Of course, remember where a child is in their development as to whether this is going to work or not. Remember, your toddlers are a lot of times just in parallel play, and cooperation isn't started. And one child may have the ability to move on with this concept, and the other one doesn't. So keep in mind your developmental stage where a child is when you're trying to teach cooperation. I also want to talk about the word sharing. Okay. If you think about sharing, it's a really high mental process. There's nothing physical about if somebody says, okay, you need to go over there and you need to share. Okay. And this even, and a 2-year-old looks at you like, oh, well, I don't know what it is, but I'll go over there. Okay. So they may walk over and then they may take what they wanted anyway. So instead of, one way to kind of start teaching this concept, because it is pretty abstract, is to do a my turn, your turn, and practice this all day with your 2-year-olds. So you're on the floor with the ball. You sit down on the floor with the ball with a group of 2-year-olds. They're all around you almost immediately. So spread them out, roll the ball. It's my turn. I'm rolling it to Debbie. Now, Debbie, it's your turn. Roll it back to me. And then you can continue to play my turn, your turn. And then you can introduce the, say the word sharing. We're taking turns, we're sharing. Okay. Now, also keep in mind that one is going to pick up the ball and take off running across the room. And they aren't sharing, but keep working at it. Teaching cooperation. Explain your reasons for limits and requests. Okay, at 3-year-olds, most children use and understand language well enough to handle simple explanations. Okay, we can all help clean up. Okay, then we don't lose our toys and we can find them again. When you help me put away the laundry, I finish quicker and then we can play. Sorry, this one was out of family, working with the family. But again, give simple explanations. Make them short. Okay, make them short. And how we're doing this, we've got all of our toys picked out, so we're going to line up and go outside. We got all of our toys put away, so we're going to line up and go outside. We're going to have so much fun. Praise the kids that have done it. Look how well so-and-so picked up the blocks, how quickly they did that. You're going to always have the kids that don't pick up toys. So one of the best ways I found to kind of get them involved is when you start the cleanup time, go over to the non-cleaner up child and, specifically where they are, work with them to put the toys up. Okay, and then lots of praise for the child. Sometimes this will work a little bit, but if you consistently keep trying, you will see an improvement as the child gets a little bit older. Okay, so take time to problem solve. You can help older 2- and 3-year-olds come up with solutions to everyday dilemmas and encourage cooperation at the same time. Okay, so put your problem solving hat on. Give specific examples, give specific praise for the cooperative efforts. Point out who did it, why they did it, and how important. Okay, that gives recognition to the child who is cooperating. Okay, and then your non-toy picker-upper may look at it like, well, they're over there and they're getting all these wonderful smiles. Okay, so maybe I should do this and I'm going to get the praise. Okay, I don't believe in stickers, stars. If you're involved in conscious discipline, you want to teach a child to be proud of themselves from within. So that's something that you could may want to look into. Okay, we are going to be moving into cognitive development and brain functions. At this point, we are going to stop and take a break. So let's give it about 5 minutes. Um, and then we'll go on and finish. Thank you. I'll see you in 5 minutes. All right, let's get on back. It's on the downhill slide of the training. 2 hours is a long time. To me, it's even longer because I don't have you actively involved with activities, which I would normally do. So I'm hoping that you're getting the concepts and learning something. The very first brain function of a child is cognitive. Okay, that's the very first thing that happens with the child. They start using their brain. Now, two things that they work on in cognitive are cause and effect and problem solving. Cause and effect thinking or casualty can begin as early as 8 months. This type of thinking allows us to make inferences and reason about things that happen around us. Okay? A young child, when they drop the spoon and you pick it up, and you drop the spoon and they pick it up, okay, they're learning the cause and effect of dropping it. And they also may be learning the social, because after about the 4th time, you go, no, I'm not picking that spoon up again. Okay. Casually is if and then action, and we just talked about that. If we don't feed the fish, it will die. Now, one of the good ways to understand when a child is really starting to consider cause and effect is why. Okay, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? So they're not just being irritating. They're basically trying to learn, why things are happening and how it affects them. Okay, some simple ways to teach cause and effect. Object permanence is one of the first lessons in cause and effect. You place a toy, you do this with your babies, you place a toy under a blanket and then pull the blanket up. So they see it and then it's gone and then they see it again. Okay? Peekaboo. I see your eyes and I don't. Then move to toys that move or make noises when an action is taken. You can see, like, you're playing with a baby and you're hitting the button and things are just going really good, and so then you pull back and there goes the baby. They're hitting that button. They're going to try to get the same reaction that you've had, the same action you did. Okay? Explain an action that can cause and effect. Okay? Assist in the discovery of problem solving, such as puzzles. Puzzles, cause and effect. If I put it this way, it'll work. If I put it that way, it'll work. It won't work. Practice and explain what's happening. Even flushing the toilet is a cause and effect event. Children learn that if you pull this lever down, the water goes away and then it comes back up. So that's a cause and effect. Also, as children get older, using words to explain. Susie does not like it when you hit her. Okay, so I hit her. She's crying, and then my teacher is explaining to me that she doesn't like it. So again, cause and effect. Problem solving. Why do we want children to learn problem solving? Children who learn to solve problems on their own tend to be happier, they're more confident, independent, and have less frustration. The brain of everyone, of children included, are wired to generate solutions. Those little synapses are connecting all together and saying, well, this happened this time, okay? And let's see if I try it over here, I'll get the same conclusion. But, the brain is always working to find a solution. Then also to your advantage that children are born curious. So they're willing to try different activities to solve the problem. So encourage, and don't always just fix it for the kids. Steps to problem solve. State the problem. You want to draw on the wall, but the teacher says no. Okay, that's the problem. You want to draw over here, and we don't draw on the wall. So, next, ask a question. And this is for a little bit older child. Where else could you draw? Okay. Where else you could draw? Hopefully they'll, will I have this center, this art center? I can go draw at the art center. Okay. Try a solution. Now, sometimes you offer two options. Okay. In this case, it was you can draw on paper or the cardboard box. An older child may automatically be able to go to the center, but a lot of times you have to give the two options. Don't give an option that you won't follow through with. Teaching a child to get dressed in the morning, you send them to their room, go get dressed, and they're going to come dressed out in what they want. Okay, what they want to wear. So an easy way to solve this is you can do this, you can wear this, or you can wear this. Same thing in your classrooms. You can do this or you can do this, but only give the options that you're willing to let them follow. Then redirect. Okay, most children need help finding acceptable ways to channel their desires. You can put the magnetic letters on the refrigerator. Okay. As they get older, a little bit more independent, then they can start going through these steps themselves. So, how can you teach problem solving? You want to present activities that promote problem solving. Okay. On the toys, again, this one kind of goes back to the puzzles. Okay. Give opportunities that they can work on how to get this done, to solve the problem themselves. Please kind of hang around so that they don't leave in total frustration, okay? But try not to assist them too much. Encourage trial and error play. Let them try it, and if it doesn't work, maybe we can try it another way. Ask open-ended questions. Did you see? Tell me what you saw happen when we put the car on this ramp. Okay, what did you see? Okay. And the problem may be how to get the, how they want the car to move, and so if I put it on this ramp, what happens? Give time to solve and celebrate the successes. Okay. Look at that, you did it. To kids that are going through a social issue, be sure you celebrate those successes, that they've solved the problem themselves. Give assistance as needed. Don't do it for them, but help them. Promote brainstorming. So again, ask an open-ended question, basically, well, what do you think we could do to solve this? And then if there is a mistake, turn it into a learning experience. Figure out what you can do that, oh, okay, well, this didn't work. What could we do different? Or this didn't work. What happened when we did this? Turn it into a learning experience. 12 to 18 months, how does the brain influence a toddler's ability to walk? Again, when they start walking, there's basically a reorganization. The first motor skill to develop it is fine motor, okay? And that involves use of smaller muscle groups, hands, fingers, and wrist. It's the first motor skill to develop, but when you reach and grasp, you are training your brain. So when the baby is reaching for that rattle, they're training the brain that if I do this, this will happen. So it's cause and effect. It's training. It's forming synapses. And basically, when you start looking at brain development, when you start looking at growth of a child, all of the domains typically are engaged. All of them are used. You're not just going to teach them the one thing when you're teaching them how to ride a trike. You're teaching them to move their feet for the pedals. They're talking about steering, also cooperation, taking turns. Everything kind of interlocks. These actions bring changes in the connection of certain neural population, and this one is in the red nucleus. So I didn't read a whole lot more about red nucleus. There's, again, mass quantities of research out there. Fine motor tasks promote plastic reorganization of a region in the midbrain. You might be hearing a whole lot of about plasticity, and basically it's the brain's ability to change or to add. Okay, again, there's a little bit of reorganization when learning fine motor skills, and this is the red nucleus, and this is in mid. Very quickly, some activities to promote: floor play with colorful objects, wrist and ankle rattles. Please practice tracking with children, and take a toy and move it from side to side to see if they're to make sure their eyes are moving and that they're with the item. That coordination of their eyes with their brain is also important on brain development. With your toddler, you always have that wonderful Play-Doh. Painting is that eye-hand coordination. Pasting samples of clothing that they can take on and off themselves. For the 3 and 4-year-olds, again, Play-Doh, stringing, beads, puzzles, drawing, finger plays are another form of fine motor that involves the brain. And remember, even as they're young, to do midline crossover when you're doing songs and finger plays, because putting the hand on the left side and crossing the right hand to the left side and the left hand to the right side is triggering some brain development. Okay. Scissors, construction toys. Now, gross motor is physical activities that use large body movements. These include walking, running, jumping, and hopping. Okay. Between the first and second birthdays, the brain network is linked to a walking change. Okay. The stronger connections between the brain's motor and default mode networks were associated with better walking and gross motor skills. So again, there's rearrangement of the brain to form new connections so that the child can learn to walk. Okay. Gross, also, I found during the research, is that found 2 or 3 incidents where um, a child's ability to learn, um, one where the child seemed to be having difficulty listening, and they went, to a specialist, and as the child developed their ability to do midline work and to do more intense gross motor, this disappeared. So gross motor development, all development is important on brain development and ability to learn. Gross motor for infants, tummy time, stretching and kicking while they're on their back. Putting their hand to their mouth is a gross motor activity. Toddlers, outdoor play. Need lots of outdoor play. Bubbles, trikes, dancing. I do believe in dancing and music. Preschool, running, hopping, trikes, and obstacle courses. Okay, crawling, is it necessary or not necessary? This has always been something that has come up when discussing brain development and the ability to walk. Years ago, research said that they had to crawl before they could walk for better brain development. Now there's some studies showing that it's not necessary. I had a parent, we were encouraging the ability to crawl, and she said, well, the baby doesn't have to. And I said, well, no, they don't have to, but, it would be good. And next time she took the baby to the doctor said, no, they don't have to crawl. And her form of crawling, if you look at the list, is the bottom scooter. And she scooted all around the room on her bottom, never put her hands down. Okay. Also, you got all these different types of crawling. A classic bear, commando, crab crawl, rolling crawl. You have some kids that just roll around the room. But now they're saying it is not totally necessary. And then also when I look at this, if bottom scooting is a form of crawling, then they're doing those skills. Talking. They don't talk at 2 months, so why? The first year of life, the brain primarily works on motor development, small and large. The second year of the life is when cognitive development really kicks in, and that includes language. Between 25 and 35 months, the brain is getting better at forming mental symbols for objects, people, and events. This is directly related to their growing ability to use many words and short sentences. Okay? There are delays in language, and they can have a variety of sources. I'm not a speech pathologist. You can look at some developmental guidelines that will say, if your child, there's one for the CDC, if your child isn't doing this by this time, you might want to discuss it with your pediatrician or your doctor. How does language affect the brain? Language acquisition is one of the most fundamental human traits, and it is obviously that the brain undergoes another change. Okay? During the years of language acquisition, the brain not only stores information, but starts learning the grammatical regulations of language. How does the brain affect learning? The simultaneous development of brain is just as important because it is our brain that provides us with the ability to learn and to develop new skills. Okay. It's from the brain that speech and language originate. There are certain parts of the brain that are responsible for understanding words and sentences. Again, you can look at the different parts of the brain and research, and they'll find the point of your brain that actually provides this. There are some stages of language. The first is babbling. Okay, it typically is occurring between 6 and 8 months. Then you have one word. One word, so basically it's repetition of one word, 9 to 18 months. Single open class words or word stems. 18 to 24, you have the 2 words, kind of a mini sentences. 24 to 30 is the early stage, telegraphic stage, and then 30 plus is the multi-word stage. So, as you're, I don't know what type of curriculum you use or what kind of assessment you're using, but it should have the different languages, stages that a child should be in. Again, if there's some kind of concern, you can't assume that you know that there's a problem. You're not a specialist. I'm not a specialist. All you can do is basically kind of record or, take notes that this has not occurred. Then as it progresses, you may talk to the parent about, you're not seeing this. I found that most of the time, the parents also recognize it. And sometimes they recognize it in the wrong way. They walk in the room and every kid in the classroom is crawling but theirs, and they get all upset. And you're trying to explain that each child develops at their own rate. Okay, so it's no big deal. Just be patient and provide opportunities for them to learn to crawl. I did have one set of grandparents that the baby wasn't crawling, and it took a while, but the grandpa came in to pick up the baby, and he realized the baby wasn't crawling, and so then we talked about different things you could do, and then when they went to the pediatrician, the child has MS. There is a history of it in the family. And when the child left us to go to pre-K, he had this beautiful new walker and was moving quickly with his classmates. It was just wonderful to see. In language, studies have shown that children that have a larger vocabulary are more successful in school. So talk. Promote language, talk, read, tell stories, follow your child's lead. Never criticize your child's articulation or speech patterns. Please use media sparingly and sing. And I'm putting the music in because I think it's one area that we don't use enough. I'm not sure. I know I sing out of tune, but it doesn't bother me because the kids love it. So, go ahead and start providing music early, sing with them, dance with them, have a variety. What kind of music should you provide? A variety, okay? A variety, and they need a variety. Don't keep music going on all the time. You should be singing, you should be dancing. Country and Western is fine, children's music is fine. Basically, any form of music, because you can look at the different cultures, is great for a child, okay? It's great for the children in the classroom. The only caution is the vocabulary, the language that is being used. So watch that when you're picking out the music for your classroom. Okay, the easiest way to promote language development is to talk, sing, and read. Okay, it's time to wrap up. I want to share with you some of the references that I've used. If you have not gone to the 0 to 3 website, please visit it. It's a fantastic source of information. It's aimed mostly at parents, but there are things for caregivers. So I can't recommend enough that you go ahead and visit that website. Thank you again for attending. I appreciate your time and your patience as I try to get better at at not verbal, at virtual trainings. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I have my email address at the bottom of this slide. I hope you each have a fantastic evening and that you've learned just a little bit about SIDS and brain development. Thank you very much. Bye.